You know how shocking Luka getting traded was in basketball terms? Well, in NBA business terms, this is just as wild. The Lakers getting flipped like they're a house on HGTV. So the Lakers are being sold to American businessman Josh Kushner and Bob Iger for a record-breaking price over $12 billion. Per Ramona Shelburne, she says it's $12.5 billion to be exact. But everyone wants to know why. The obvious answer is, Mark Walter just bought him for $10 billion, sold for $12.5, so he makes a cool $2.5 billion in under 9 months. But these guys don't buy sports teams to make money. They buy them because they love sports, and there's only one LA Lakers. This Walter guy also owns the Dodgers and Chelsea FC in the Premier League. He's obsessed with sports. You know what this is like? Jerry Jones just found out his Cowboys are the most valuable franchise at over $15 billion, according to Forbes. You think Jerry is about to sell? Of course not. These teams are so much more than money. So why? Well, it turns out there are potentially 2 scandalous reasons behind this news. And one of them is an investigation that very few NBA fans even know about. Like, people are so focused on the Kawhi investigation with the Clippers, but there's something a lot more serious going on with the Lakers that just flew under the radar. Now, I want to get to the other potential reason, but obviously we have to explain this investigation, right? So in late July, just a few weeks ago, a report said that Mark Walter is being investigated by the US government. The issue might be how Walter purchased the Lakers to begin with. So one thing this guy runs are insurance companies. And back in 2012, he borrowed from them to buy the Dodgers for just over $2 billion. Think of it as like owning your own bank where a bunch of people keep their savings, right? And Walter wanted to buy an expensive toy, but instead of using his own money, he walks into his own bank and lends himself his customer savings. So Walter is on both sides of the deal. He decides how much interest to charge. He decides when it's going to be paid back, and he decides what happens if he doesn't pay it back. Not ideal, but regulators actually approved this back in 2012. Walter actually disclosed all of it to the government, and they said, fine, go ahead. So he bought the Dodgers. Great. But then somebody recently noticed $21 billion in similar loans that were not disclosed. That's $21 billion that went to Walter or a company that he owns. So what did he do with that cash? Did he use that to buy the Lakers or Chelsea? We don't know. That's what investigators happen to be looking at. And then he just so happens to sell the team weeks after the investigation is reported. Sure, I guess it could be unrelated, but that's quite the coincidence. The average length of NBA ownership is 7 years. Walter owns them for about 9 months. And yes, $2.5 billion is a lot of money, but this is the Lakers. You don't dump them for just $2.5 billion when you're a gajillionaire. By the way, Walter was completely redoing how the Lakers did business. He was installing a ton of new front office staff and reworking them in the Dodgers' vision to win championships. And he gives up all that work just because someone offered him more money. Some people might disagree with me that that's not shady at all, but at the very least it feels off. But what about these new owners? So Josh Kushner and Bob Iger were trying to buy the expansion team in Las Vegas, but so are a lot of other ownership groups, and the price tag was getting crazy, like probably close to $10 billion. So they're like, look, we live in Los Angeles. Ramona Shelburne says they figured, why don't we just, we're gonna pay $10 billion for a new franchise in Vegas, why don't we call up Mark Walter, see what we can do? So they did just that. They called him on Sunday, 3 days ago, and he immediately was like, oh yeah, I don't even really need to think about it that much. I'm definitely selling. What? Okay, so they've got new owners. But if you're not from the US, be prepared for some legit political backlash to this sale, okay? Don't even go on Twitter or X right now, please. If you don't know the name Kushner, okay, he's the brother of Jared Kushner, who's a member of the Trump family and has all sorts of shady business dealings. Bob Iger used to run Disney for a long time, so the whole Mickey Mouse ring thing is not going away anytime soon. But my point is that Laker fans loved Mark Walter, that he bought the team from the Buss family because he was a proven group that knew how to win with the reinvented Dodgers. on their way to doing the same thing in terms of reinvention with the Lakers. But these new guys, not some great sports track record, and if they don't win, the political ties thing will be annoying as hell. But the second scandalous reason, and I think this is way worse for Laker fans actually, and we are in conspiracy land, I acknowledge that, but this actually makes a lot of sense. What if Walter realized this is not MLB? The NBA is actually way harder to win than we thought, and the Lakers are gonna be terrible for years. Like in baseball, the Dodgers immediately went and got the MLB version of Sam Presti. He was a guy named Andrew Friedman. They went and poached him from a small market, okay? Then he built out the front office, and then Walter spit like crazy on top of that with no salary cap. But in basketball, Walter can't go get Sam Presti because he's married to OKC. And yes, they can build out the front office, but you can't buy elite players. Walter looks down the street at Steve Ballmer, who's the richest owner in American sports, and his money means practically nothing. Getting him in trouble, actually. In fact, they're like, oh, there's a salary cap on players, but not on front office. You don't think Steve Ballmer's already tried that? What are the Clippers going to a bunch of finals? No. Money doesn't mean as much in the second apron era. So they push LeBron James out of town, have their big offseason acquiring Walker Kessler, paying Austin Reeves, and then Walter asks his baseball people, do you think that we have a realistic chance of winning a title? And I say baseball people because Walter brought in all the baseball guys like Andrew Friedman into the Lakers front office to help them kind of reshape and revision things. So they're intimately involved. And those guys went to Walter and said, realistically, no, we're gonna suck. The Thunder and Spurs have built young, talented teams that are going to own this league for the next 5 to 7 years. We have Luka, but we're out of assets with no real way to improve. In fact, Mark, our Dodgers playbook cannot work with the Lakers. We've realized that because NBA rules are so much different. We are screwed. Then the phone rings, and it's Josh Kushner and Bob Iger offering $12.5 billion. And Mark Walter was like, perfect timing. Let's get out of here. Let's go focus on the Dodgers winning championships. That might be what happened as well. Actually, if I were a Laker fan, I would really hope that's not what happened, but it makes sense. But one thing that we do know for sure is the Lakers have shockingly been sold for a second time in under 9 months. But this time, their fans don't feel quite as excited. Something feels a little off, and it's probably not a good thing. But speaking of that second theory about how, the Lakers just might not be very good going forward, and the ownership sees that. This ownership, they are all about winning championships. Like, they are going all out with the Dodgers. If you're not paying attention to baseball, ever since they bought them in 2012, they've been like, pulling out all the stops. They don't care who they piss off along the way. They don't care about what rules they potentially like bend or break to make it happen. They're just going to make it happen. And it just, that doesn't apply in the new CBA. The new CBA in the second apron has neutered the ability for like the super ambitious owner to do, pull out all the stops and to win a championship. It just doesn't work that way anymore. The way it works is you have to get a super duper smart front office and potentially get some of your players, your star players, to take pay cuts, okay? It's just not working. They couldn't even get Austin Reeves to take more than a $5 million pay cut, dude. Austin Reeves. And they didn't really have much of a choice. They had to pay him, or else he was going to walk, and you can't replace what Austin Reeves gives you with nothing. So, it's like, gosh, and we can't go poach Sam Presti the way we did Andrew Friedman. We can't. Sam Presti's not going to leave. And Presti and the Spurs have built, that 7'5" kid in San Antonio is going to own the league for a long time as long as he can stay healthy. They might have thought, this just isn't what we thought it was going to be, and we can't force our will and our smarts and our money as an ownership group to make it happen. You just can't do it in the NBA. It won't let you. And so they may have just pulled the plug, I guess. And so, it's just not a great look for the Lakers because, if all you need is a really smart front office and get lucky in the draft, that kind of thing, and hope that you draft that superstar, get the stars to take pay cuts. If those are the advantages, then the things that traditionally gave the Lakers a big advantage, those things don't exist anymore. And that's not good because they've depended on that for a long, long time. How do you think they got Kareem to make Showtime work? Kareem was like, yo, I want to be a Laker. And he went there. How do you think the Kobe three-peat is because Shaq said, I want to be a Laker. And the Orlando Magic bungled his free agency, but in the end, they offered him about the same amount of money. But Shaq was like, no, I'm good. I want to go to LA. Well, that mystique and getting stars like that, that's just not what works in the NBA anymore. And they've got Luka, but Luka is not a cheat code. He's going to keep them relevant, but the path to multiple championships is not as clear. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But I'm getting a lot of hate for this Wizards video here. All of their fans believe that they're going to compete for the playoffs, maybe even win a playoff series, go to the second round. But I lay out where actually their front office is planning on doing the exact opposite, and those fans are going to get a rude awakening. I'm getting a lot of heat for this video.